Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. I'm going to show you a simple mixed media background with the stencil we create and share a few scrapbooking tips along the way. On my desk I have the August main kit from Hip Kit Club. The Sunshine and Lemons collection features charming double-sided patterns and prints that perfectly match its name. This kit includes matte gold alpha stickers, foam phrase stickers, cardstock ephemera and chipboard die cuts with the gold foil accents, and multicolor pearls. For today's project, I'm going to bring in these two new die sets, which I just love. Floral dies are one of my weaknesses, so I was happy to add the bright florals and leaves set to my collection. On this page, I will also be using the honeycomb texture die, and I'll share how I turned this into a stencil for my page. As I create this layout, I'll bring in a few additional supplies. I'll list those in the description below, along with a link to this Hip Kit collection. I have selected two photos of our little pup snacking on some raspberries in the garden. I'm using a pattern from the Pocket Life collection to frame the photos. The darker hue is similar to the color of the raspberries, which are an important part of the story. I've also grabbed a black and white PL card. I like the combination of black and pink and how this pattern will help my primary photo stand out. When I designed the layout, I debated on framing the entire page in this floral citrus pattern, but I opted to use this on the edges of the page instead. I know that there's going to be quite a bit of pink on this layout with the flowers and the ink, so I wanted to make sure that I had some negative space around my photo. Like I always do, I ran a wet brush down the edge of the paper where I wanted to create the torn edge. I also used a little bit of water to help roll up the edge of the cardstock. Behind the torn edge, I'm bringing in some of that pink floral pattern. I wanted to make sure that this was lined up correctly, so I laid a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock under my page and used that to help me line up the edge of the paper. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more pink on the opposite side because I want to create some directional flow. Again, I'm going to use my water brush to tear the edge of the cardstock and roll it up a bit. The water does a great job of softening the paper fibers and helps the rolled paper stay in place as the water dries. All right, let's go ahead and make that honeycomb stencil so that we can create a simple mixed media background. To create the stencil, I'm using a sheet of Mylar stencil film. This is a thinner film that cuts well with dies and the Cricut machine. There are quite a few stencil film options out there, but this is the one I prefer. I have discovered that I need to use a metal shim when I'm cutting the stencil film. This just gets layered over the die under the top plate. The metal shim adds a little more pressure and helps that die cut through the film. It is helpful to have a little tool or brush to eliminate all of those little pieces. It took me a moment to do this, but once they were removed, I was able to pop that stencil right out of the die. This stencil will hold up to blending, paste, and it can easily be cleaned. I plan on filling in that stencil design with saltwater taffy, and I want it to stand out over the background color that I add. The pink pattern paper has an orange-yellow flower, so I'm going to mix the saltwater taffy ink with the lemonade ink to create a similar hue. Before I applied the ink, I did prep my cardstock with some clear gesso. Gesso creates a barrier that the color can float on instead of soaking into the paper. I'm just going to create some drips of color with my paintbrush. I did mark where the photos were going to sit so that I had an idea of the area where I wanted to add color. To be honest, I'm not a huge mixed media creator, so simple washes of color and stencil designs are within my comfort zone. I am trying to explore more ways to add mixed media to my layouts, but I really do struggle with the unpredictability of it. If you have any tips, I would love for you to post those. Now that my water washed color has dried, I'm going to add the honeycomb design over the top. Now the stencil doesn't have a frame to secure it, so I'm having to hold it in place while I add the color. My honeycomb pattern is going to be random, so I really don't mind this at all. With a small brush, I'm adding the saltwater taffy ink. This is a distress ink that is water reactive. If you wanted to, you could spritz some drops of water over the stencil design and create another layer of texture. While I finish adding the rest of the stenciling, I would love it if you tap that subscribe button and let me know that you're new here. If you're already a subscriber, let me know that you enjoyed today's video by tapping the thumbs up icon or leaving me a comment below. I would love to know if you plan on creating one of these stencils for your projects. So how much do you enjoy that background? This is such a simple technique and I love how it turned out. And now that the background's complete, I'm going to bring in those two photos. Around the photos, I'm going to layer some florals. These were cut from grapefruit pink cardstock using the Bright Florals and Leaves die set. Around the edges, I'm adding some color with the saltwater taffy. I'm just using the small brush that I used earlier to blend a little bit of color on the edges of the flower. This inking technique gives your flowers a little bit of dimension. I am going to shape this a bit and then layer it over the top of another flower. I am using foam dots in between the layers because I want to bring some dimension to my page. In the center, I'm adding this lovely little white piece. That die set includes quite a few floral sizes and layers that you can use to create different types of flowers. Today, I'm keeping mine simple, so I've decided on 4 larger florals and a few sets of small ones. I'm going to start layering these above and below the photos. The flowers are going to create a vertical line of color on the page, similar to one that could be added with pattern paper. Around those flowers, I'm going to add some layers of leaves. I cut these from sky blue and lime zest green cardstock using the leaf dies that came in the set. I like how the larger leaves have a lovely little etched line in the center. When I select colors for a page, I try to use ones that emphasize the photos and help tell the story. There's quite a bit of pink being added to this page, which is designed to represent the garden our little pup explores every morning. The bits of green help bring focus back to the raspberries in the photo. That summer, our pup discovered how tasty raspberries are. She's never eaten anything in the garden except for the occasional cucumber. I noticed that she was sniffing them and licking them, so I gave her permission to snack on them. After one bite, she was hooked and wanted to snack on them every time we went outside. Now, I enjoy the mix of black and pink. Maybe this is from my 80s childhood, but either way, I decided that these bundles of flowers needed a neutral color. So I brought in these black clear stickers from the embellishment kit. I'm just going to tuck these in a few areas around the design. If you're worried that this is starting to look a bit unbalanced, it's because I'm keeping that area on the right side open for journaling. Here in a moment, I'll add that to the page. All right, now it is time to finish this page up with some embellishments. I brought in some chipboard and die cuts from the main kit and a few items from the embellishment kit. I have cut one of the chipboard frames in half and I'm tucking these behind my photos. The chipboard frames have the same pattern as the one I selected for the edge of my page. Adding a pattern that is similar to the frame around my page is going to help draw the eye to that space. This page needs something that isn't pink, so I'm going to bring in some of the muted gold accents. On the left, I have this little tab that says "So Good." Behind it, I'm tucking a blue circle because the journal card I selected has a blue frame and some of the muted gold. At the top of the journal card, I'm adding another phrase that says, "This is happiness." To bring more of the muted gold to the page, I'm adhering 3 little chipboard hearts at the top. These are just being layered randomly near the florals. Now I've created a nice visual triangle of muted gold, but I do need to add one more soft blue accent. I discovered this lovely little butterfly with gold dots on the wings, and this matches everything perfectly. To finish off this design, I'm going to add a muted gold title at the base. This says "Simply the Best." All right, I'm going to go off camera and add my journaling, and then I'll share the completed page with you. Here is the sweet little layout of our pup enjoying raspberries. I typed up my journaling and printed it onto the card. If you would like a tutorial of how to do this, I have one on my YouTube channel that you can view. To bring in some more gold and yellow, I added another heart near the base of the page and added some of those lovely pearls. These finish off the page beautifully. Today, I shared a simple way that you can make a mixed media background with a stencil that was created with a metal die. Like I said earlier, I like to keep my mixed media simple on my layouts. Creating bits of torn paper, adding simple washes of color, and stenciling are fun ways that you can dip your toe into mixed media without feeling overwhelmed. I hope that you give a few of these techniques a try. If you're one who likes to pin photos to inspiration boards, I have added still shots of this page in the Hip Kit Facebook group and on my website for you to use. I want to thank you for joining me for another scrapbooking project. If you would like to see more of my creations, you can visit my channel or follow Miss Carrie's Creations online. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies listed below, feel free to leave me a comment. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.